Today is a very special night. Today is the yortzeit of Rabbi Natan Zal. He was the head student of Rabbi Nachman. He was the main disciple for revealing all these teachings to Rabbi Nachman. He was the one that literally put it into a language that we can understand. Because the depth of Rabbi Nachman's teachings was so deep that we needed Rabbi Natan to put it. So today is his yortzeit, and it's definitely an unbelievable day to tap into, to pray in his merit, that we should have a big Yeshua. So today we're going to talk about bitachon. Bitachon means trust. We spoke about emunah yesterday, last week. This week we're going to speak about bitachon. So it's funny, when I was doing the class, I was looking, and every time I'm looking at bitachon, I see Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. It's popping in my head, this Bitcoin. So I said, wow. I said, what are people trusting in, Bitcoin or bitachon? I think what we should be really trusting is bitachon. But unfortunately, our trust went to Bitcoin. And it's funny, I had a conversation with somebody before I came up with the title. Every title I come up with is based on a conversation. So the guy is so happy that Bitcoin went up to 1,600 or 1,800, and then the next day he calls me, he's very depressed because the Bitcoin went down a little bit. So his wife started yelling at him because he came out in a bad mood. I said, you know, your shalom bayit is based upon Bitcoin's price. Is that a good way to build a house? Is that a good way to build a marriage? So I told him, you need to build your marriage based on bitachon, not bitcoin. And I told him, your whole life is based on the stock market, whether it goes up or not. That's not a way. You don't want to sit there and have your mood dependent upon that. I used to be like that. I remember 2 years ago, if I was doing successfully, I would come home in a good mood. If I had a good day, my mood was terrible. And I realized the pattern that I can't depend on finances to depend on my mood. I'm going to have a horrible marriage. What kind of a marriage can I have? So I realized that these are the trends, unfortunately, that people are getting into default mode, and they don't even realize that their shalom bayit is based upon a stock price. Their shalom bayit, their happiness is based on money. And unfortunately, that's not what we want, because we can't live like that. So today we're going to talk about bitachon, which is very, very important. So it's so important, bitachon, because the difference between a person getting blessing and, God forbid, getting cursed is based on his trust in Hashem, which is it's a huge thing. It's not like I'm here. No, either you're in bounds or you're out of bounds. We always spoke about that in order for a relationship to have any kind of strength, in order for a relationship to be strong, it must have trust. We know that we can't really, if we have a spouse that we believe that God forbid is cheating on us, God forbid, there's no way you can have tranquility and not have anxiety. So so what happens if we don't have that trust level in our spouse? Then we're guaranteed to have anxiety, which is the 100% problem today in the United States. There's a huge anxiety problem today. So we have to realize that we have to work on our trust. If you have trust in a marriage, then you're not checking every 5 seconds where the person is. But if you don't have trust in a marriage, you have no marriage. You have no marriage. So that's a very, very important. Same thing, our trust in God. If we don't have that trust in God, then what do? We're going to read sources here. They're basically going to say that if a person does not trust in God, he's trusting in nature. You're going to let Bill O'Reilly tell you your state of being. You're going to let CNN determine your health. God bless you. It's not going to be a good place. So to the extent that we don't trust in God, we fall into nature. So either we have trust in God, then God watches over us, or we trust into other things. So it's not like we have you can't be in bounds and out of bounds. You can't be half pregnant. Either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. Same thing with trust in Hashem. You can't either have either one. We know that emunah, if a person, the opposite of emunah is doubt. So emunah is believing. The opposite of bitachon, the opposite of trust, is fear. So if you know you have fear in something, you automatically do not have trust in it. And this is very important because to the degree of our trust, Rav Nachman speaks about is the degree of our vessels. That means if we don't have the appropriate vessels to receive bounty, it's finished. That's it. It's finished. So we're going to walk into these patterns. Rav Nachman says in lesson 10 that clearly our state of mind and our contemplation, that means the more contemplation we have, the more settled our mind is, the more God dwells within us. If we have Hashem dwelling within us, what happens? We get the answer to whatever we need. If we don't have Hashem that dwells with us, then we don't know the answer. We don't know where to go. We're left in doubt. And that's a very scary thing. So, the Torah is not something that you have to go get. It's in you. You just have to pull the blinds out. Very simple. The Torah is within us. We were all taught the Torah, but what happens, we muddled it. We put a lot of coverings upon it. So what do we need to do? Imagine living in a beautiful penthouse, 45th floor, but what happens? You have the blinds. You can't see. So what do you need to do? You need to pull the blinds. That's what the Torah. It's in you. Trust is in you. Emunah is in you. It's already in you. It's not something you have to go get. It's in you. You just have to figure out what are the layers that are pulling me from not seeing the view. Why can I see the view? Why can I see clarity? Why can I see? Why can I be calm? Why can I have calm confidence? Because I can't see. So that's why. Why? Because what happens, we take the Torah and we put a lot of curtains on it, and we're not able to see clearly. So to the degree of our vision is the degree of our trust. Very important. I can't just tell you to have trust if you have no intellect. It's not going to work. So to the degree that you work on yourselves is the degree you have intellect. To the degree you have intellect, that's the power of your vision. That means a person who's a visionary can see very far away. A person who's not a visionary, because he lacks trust, can't see. So what does he do? He panics. We're going to talk about a term called amygdala hijacking. What is amygdala hijacking? This is for our Moroccan brothers. What happens when a person constantly goes into a fear of flight form? What happens is you have amygdala in the back of your head. It's the size of a almond. What happens? It senses danger. Anytime you have some kind of danger, because your mind is there to protect you. It's not there to help you. Obviously, why are we so stuck on trauma? Because we don't want it to happen again. So our minds protect us from, God forbid, something happen to us again. God forbid, if a person was abused, if he just smells the perfume, it triggers an alert. Stay away from this person, even though it could be a completely different person. Or if a person triggers a loss in something, any kind of trigger that you had a traumatic experience, Hashem created your brain to protect you. But what are the triggers today? Our triggers are not emails. They were supposed to be back then for a tiger that was chasing you. But today, what are the triggers? An email. Somebody calling you. Everything's a trigger. So we have to understand that our amygdala hijacking is something that Daniel Goldman came up with. He created this concept called emotional intelligence. And he showed scientifically that emotional intelligence, EQ, is bigger than IQ. That means you can have a very smart guy with 150 IQ, but he can't control his emotions. Why is the problem with EQ, with a person losing control? Is because when his amygdala takes over and creates this panic, it takes 4 hours for him to recover. Not only does it take 4 hours for him to recover, but it blocks your neocortex, which is your thinking brain, which is your logical brain. So any logic that you're going to make a decision on, you lose it. It blocks the logic. So we can't make. Basically, our emotions are ruling over our intellect. So to the degree that we're not able to identify what's a threat and what's not a threat in our lives, then we can never really flourish into who we're supposed to be, because we're looking at everything as a threat. Unfortunately, people grew up like this in the households that were a little bit spicy, so everything's a threat to them. But it's not good. Yeah, it's fun to joke around, but what happens is your brain thinks this is the new norm. That means if I don't have some kind of normality in my life, I have to create panic. They're used to the panic. What do you mean things are calm? Let's make problems up. So because they're not used to tranquility, so they have to sabotage behavior to create craziness in their lives, so they can have this amygdala running high, because it doesn't know the difference. It's just like, imagine you're walking around the parking lot, next thing you know, one car, woo, woo, woo. I didn't even touch the car, but that car, even if you're near it, it's a threat. So to the degree that we have this amygdala hijacking, we're not going to get anywhere, relationship-wise, business-wise, anywhere. So how do we fix this? We have to realize we have to have trust, because if we don't have trust, we automatically have anxiety. You can't get rid of anxiety just by taking a Klonopin. You have to get to the root of what's causing you to have anxiety is a lack of trust in Hashem. If you lack a trust in Hashem, then automatically everything's a threat to you instead of a challenge. So if everything's a threat to you instead of a challenge, then we lost. We lost the whole game. Then you look at, Saturday night, all of a sudden you see this Aventura Mall. 6 people dead. What's going on? And we find that there wasn't even a shooting. the amount of threats and the amount of what we're accustomed to, so many threats, you can't live like that and have and possibly have peace of mind. Why? Because it takes 4 hours to recover. So you're giving away your days away to emotions. Same thing with Shalom Bayit. Person discusses something. Listen, honey, I think you need to do this. Why are you talking to me like this? Because he's used to attacking. So we have to be able to realize we're never going to get. What happens is, Rav Nachman clearly says, and also the Gemara says, Hashem does not dwell with a person that's in a state of constant stress or duress. So, it's a problem, because we're never going to be, our neocortex, which is the logical brain, will never make the proper decision on what we need to do. So I can't stress this is enough, that if you don't have mercy on yourselves, then who's going to have mercy for you? And we have to realize, my job in my life is very simple. Is EQ, emotional intelligence, is bigger than IQ. I have kids in my rehab from Harvard. I have very intelligent people in my rehab. Very, very intelligent people. But they can't control their emotions. Can't control their emotions. Can't control your emotions, that's it, finished. So we have to get to the root cause. We can't complain. I can't believe these apples are coming out rotten every day. What's the soil like? What's the soil like? So this is something that unfortunately our thinking can, unfortunately, whenever we think something, we actually blemish something on high and showing that we don't have trust. It's funny how people today, they panic about things from 5 years ago. The lady had called me, I have such anxiety of where my kid's going to go to college. It's not even happening until 5 years. So you're not going to be in the moment. So we have to exit our minds and enter the moment. So we don't want amygdala hijacking. We don't want that, because that overall, not only does that do it, but it shortens the communication with your brain, and it doesn't allow you to develop spiritually, emotionally, etc. Got to shut the thread off. Very important. So a person has to ask himself, what are the biggest threats in my life? Write them down, question them, and saying, you know what? I'm not in control of this. Why am I worrying about this? We know worry, the word in Latin for worry, it means to strangle oneself. It means to strangle oneself. That's what the word worry means. And this is what the Jews are born to worry. You know, and unfortunately, this is all stuck with our ancestors, because we know in Egypt, what happened in Egypt? Our problem in Egypt is the minute Moshe didn't come down, Moshe was supposed to come down in 40 days and 40 nights. What happens? We panicked. He didn't come down in the 40 nights. A half an hour, one afternoon, what did the Jews do? They did the biggest sin in history. They served an idol. Because he didn't come down half an hour. So you have to understand something, that we have a built-in wiring of worry and panic. And that's something, and the only way to replace this habit is through having another thing called trust in Hashem. That means we have to rewire our brain to have bitachon. Very, very important. I can't stress this enough. See, I like to go back to basics with people, because you can learn, if a person doesn't have the right beliefs, you'll never get him to the next level. So this is very important. We have to ask ourselves, where is our bitachon? We know Emunah represents a person's belief. Bitachon represents a person's trust. What is his actions? It means Emunah is a belief. I can believe in Hashem, but one thing is trust. That means my actions. That means the ability for me to make long-term plans with a specific spouse is depending upon my trust. That means if a guy's not committing, he doesn't trust the relationship. So, get married, get engaged, here's the ring. No, let me wait, I have to wait for my grandmother to approve. Whatever it is. Yeah, he believes it could be working, but he's not committing. He's not committing to action. Action means trust. I trust it's going to work out, here's the ring. So the ability, you right away, you'll know a guy, if he's committing to you, is if you make long-range plans. If a person's able to make long-range plans in his life, he has bitachon. He has trust. If he doesn't make it, he might have emunah, but he doesn't have bitachon. So we don't want to be around with people who don't make long-range plans, because at the end of the day, they're not all in. They don't have the trust element. Very important. And you could tell this in business, relationships. That's what you want to look for, a person who has bitachon. He trusts us. Now, trust is not something that's easy, because you're going to have to rely on Hashem. You're going to have to rely on not knowing. Okay, so that's something. So, remember, we have to, our emotions are the cause of our connection to Hashem. The way you handle things, how quickly you respond to something, is literally telling Hashem about your emunah or your bitachon. It's a beautiful article here. They're saying here, something very beautiful in this world, living emunah. He's saying here, acquiring true emunah, living a lifelong endeavor, there are many different levels of emunah. It says one's level of emunah is determined by how quickly does he get out of a situation. How quickly? How quickly does it take you to recover from a situation? That's determining how the level. The quicker it is, the quicker you see meaning in it, the quicker you have, the more emunah you have. If it takes you a long time to figure out, that means there's a problem with vision. So remember that, it's very important. So again, this is a world of asiyah, this is a world of doing. Our ability to transform emunah into trust is through, just the baby please, yeah. The ability for us to transform potential into actual is through trust. So trust is the vessel. It's not enough, emunah is not enough. You need trust. You need trust. So let's talk about a few things. So this book, Daniel Goldman came out with a book called Emotional Intelligence, which is great because he did a study on CEOs and determined which CEOs were successful in their endeavors. And he clearly showed that 80% of things is 20% of the things is the actual facts, 80% is our attitude towards the situation. 80% of a person's success in business is his emotional ability to manage, to handle stress, to give proper meaning. So we want to handle, you don't want to handle a hothead guy to be a CEO. You want to handle a person who's able to have endurance and who has trust in the company. That's what he says here. This is something very beautiful. He's saying here, a key to other characteristics of emotional intelligence, abilities are the ability to motivate oneself and persist in the face of frustration and control impulses and delay gratification. Very, very important, these things. So again, focus on EQ versus IQ. You want to look for a CEO? It's funny, from these classes, I've absolutely learned so much. I look for different things in people. Before, oh, he's a smart guy. No. Let me put him in customer service, how he can handle the customers. Because remember, if it takes you 4 hours to recover from an adrenaline cortisol attack, who's paying for those 4 hours? I'm paying for the 4 hours. I'm paying you to react, to recover from your emotions. That's wasted money. So to the ability that we have people that are reacting, we want people that respond to situations. No reactions. Reactions, animals react, humans respond. You want shalom bayit? Get comfortable with knowing how to respond. Honey, where were you? What do you care? What are you showing about yourself? You have no emotional stability. And that really shows a lack of character, and it's not a good sign in Hashem. So, how do we get this trust? How do we get this trust? It's not an easy thing to get, because it just doesn't come to you. It doesn't come to you. Trust does not just come to you. Reb Nachman says here, know when the lungs are perfect, it causes trust to be perfect. What does that mean here? He says, what do my lungs have to do with my trust level? He's saying, because the main trust is perfected by the means of my intellect. Basically today, if a person is not constantly working on himself spiritually, if he's not constantly working on his specific ta'avot, his specific negative habits, where do our desires come from? Our desires come from our hearts, right? Our job is to use the lungs and to cool it down. That's the purpose for having lungs. Just like a computer, right? If the computer would be hot all the time, then it would overburn. Same thing with our heart. Our heart is called, the Zohar says, it's called the heart organ. It constantly has an initial reaction to attack, to want, to desire. The ability to control, the ability to be above, that means you have to go into your soul level, is the ability to cool it off is based upon your lungs. What do your lungs do? It cools off the heart. Now, my job is to keep the intellect going, because my soul is like a lamp. The ability for me to get oils into my soul, to get up, is based upon my intellect. If I use my heart, and my heart is rising up, that means every single time I have a problem, every single time I have a desire, I go for it, this is going to muddle my intellect. If I don't have an intellect, there goes my trust. There goes my kelim. I don't have vessels. So unfortunately, you see today addictions, this and this. Why is it so hard today to do tshuva? Specifically, why do we have to wait to do tshuva? Why is it such a part of doing tshuva, which is very frustrating, is the waiting period. One thing is I have to go to the doctor. Another thing is I have to wait 6 months for an appointment. Or I have to wait 2 hours for the doctor to come see me. Why is that waiting period such a difficult for us today? It's because when we sinned, we didn't wait. We didn't wait when we sinned. We did it right away. So what do you have to do now to rectify it? You got to wait. So in order to be really purified, it requires a lot of waiting in specific areas. Same thing as a person has a habit for food. What does he have to do now? He has to wait. He has to let his cravings go. Same thing. So our job is the ability to control our cravings, to control. Why? Because our intellect is dependent upon our level of self-control. You want to have self-control, you're going to be very smart. No self-control, what happens? Your emotions take over your intellect. If you don't have intellect, you don't have trust. You don't have vision. Because what happens? Like a lamp. If it has oil and the hot organ comes and burns the oil, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. So our rituals that we do every single day will depend upon your level of trust. You won't be able to just do it waking up in the morning and say, can't you just trust me? No, you won't be able to, because your intellect has to be strong. So people who do not look for spirituality, that focus their whole life on entertainment, there's an equation in life. Entertainment versus empowerment. I love entertainment. I entertain, thank God. I'm not a guy to stay home and read books all day long. But I know that I have to at least have 50% entertainment, 50% empowerment. I can't have 90% entertainment and 10% empowerment and expect to have a good balanced life. I can't binge on TV till 10, 11 o'clock at night and wake up in the morning and think, let's go get them. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, because my level of intellect is based upon what I do to my spiritual, my soul, and my soul will develop my intellect. That's how it goes. So we can't spend our time on, when it comes to 120 years, you're not going to say, I didn't send enough posts on Instagram. I didn't tweet enough. You're going to say, what the hell? What did I do? I didn't send enough. I wish I would have posted more. I promise you that's not going to be a question. You're going to be, how come I didn't develop myself? Why was I so distracted? And this world is one here. This world is here to distract us. We have to understand. We're in a world of distraction. Because, like I said, the Torah is inside of us. But what do we need to do? Pull the curtains. The curtains. Pull the curtains so you can see the view. When you can see the view, you have focus, you have vision. So it's not like it's going to come to me. I'm not born with trust. It's developed based upon how much time I spend on myself. Very important concept. Very, very important. So the people that learn a lot of classes, all of a sudden, what do they do with the classes? Those examples come to them at work. And what do? They apply the formula. When they apply the formula, what happens? They don't get that 4.5 hour rush of adrenaline and cortisol for no reason, for a false threat. They get through the days calmly with energy. And from there, they build tremendous momentum. That's how it happens. It just doesn't come overnight. So, again, we have to realize, and the ability for us to spend time on ourselves is how much we love ourselves. Because if you don't love yourself, what do you want to do? Spend time all day long entertaining yourself. So we have to invest times in ourselves. You are the biggest investment. And you can also obviously be the problem. So again, we have to understand that this amygdala hijacking, it not only does it give you this adrenaline rush, it makes you sick because it shuts your immune system down, but it blocks your ability for logic. So you think, how come this guy is making the same mistake over and over and over and over? Because he's doing the same thing. So you'll get the same lesson in life until you pass it. That's what I've learned the hard way. You get the same lesson in life until you pass it. Something's wrong. What do we need to do? We need to realize what's wrong. We have to work on the soil, not work on the fruit. If the fruits are rotten, there's a problem with the soil. Stop figuring out testing the fruit. Look at the soil. The soil is the munah. The soil is trust. The soil, your level of trust. So, beautiful article from the Noam Elimelech says something very beautiful. In Parshas Behar, the Jews were commanded every 7th year that they should take a vacation. They should take a shemitah. They shouldn't plan. So their question was, what will we eat the 7th year? If you're telling us to take a vacation, don't plan for the 7th year. What am I going to eat? Right? Typical question. He says, behold, we will not sow and gather our crops. I have commanded my blessing for you for the 6th year, and it will yield crop for 3 years. So Hashem told him, if you take the 7th year off, not only you're going to have a vacation, but you're going to be able to have enough crops for 3 years. Now, it sounds pretty amazing, but what happens? People didn't believe it. They didn't believe that God could do such a thing. So what happens? They went against themselves. So look what's happening. It says Hashem created the world in His goodness, and everybody has a specific pipeline. The same thing. When a person is worried, a lot of people I speak, I'm worried about having children because how am I going to support my children? Because if I have 3 children, how am I going to support a 4th one? I can barely make it. The Gemara says very clearly, every child comes with bread with this table. That means every child comes with his sustenance. It's not based upon you. Stop thinking it's upon you. Every time we wash our hands every day for blessings, for bread, we lift our hands above our head because we have to show that Emunah is above our intellect. Stop thinking that you're in charge of money. You can spend 24 hours working and still not be successful. It's blessing from Hashem. Unfortunately, it's very hard to control that because people don't want to give up control in life. It's one thing that people don't want to give control. I want to be in charge of what's happening in my life. Really? Okay, knock yourself out. So to the extent that you're in charge of what's happening, then God's going to show you how much you're not in charge of it. So our ability is we have to pay a tax. Why do we have to pay a tax to work? Because we got cursed with Adam and Eve. It says, by the sweat of your brow you're going to work. You have to put your effort, you have to create a vessel, and after that, whether it's blessed or not, it's up to God. That means if Hashem wants to make one guy wealthy, He will make him. If He doesn't want to make another guy wealthy, no matter what he does in the world, he will not be wealthy. And we have to just accept that. Yes, you can change your mazal, but some people are running and chasing this wealth that they want to. I have to be wealthy. It's not in the cards for you to be wealthy. So if I'm not wealthy, why should I also give up my health? Maybe I'm supposed to do something else in my life. You understand? So we have to understand not everybody's destined to be wealthy. It's a gift from God. It's a gift from God. We have to realize that. No matter what effort I put in, it's at the end of the day, the blessing, it depends on Hashem, not on me. That's something people can't handle that. So that's why they work on Saturday. That's why they do all these things, because they think, oh, I'm making money. But at the end of the day, the hurricane comes and he knocks $7,000 roof bill, the same $7,000 you made. So we got to look at the end of the day, not just at the temporary. So what he's saying here is God created the world and He created pipelines that carry Shefa and abundance and blessings to fill mankind's needs. The blessings of Shefa are ceaseless, but when man falls from a spiritual level and has lack of trust in Hashem, who is the provider, you know what happens? He causes a blemish in the higher worlds. And that stops the blessing. The word mitzvah has the same word, savaot, means connect, and command. That means, what are we doing when we're connecting to Hashem? We're connecting to Hashem, and also we're connected to commandments. So to the ability that we do not trust in Hashem, what do? We disrupt our pipelines of Shefa. So when we have excessive worry, when we do dishonest things, what are we doing? We're hurting ourselves. We're disconnecting we're misaligning a spiritual high above, causing the same thing below. So if you see today that why is there such a relationship between anger and money? Because anger is the opposite of trust. It's not happening now, so I need to scream. Then it's going to happen. So what happens? Not only do I not get the money, but I lose my soul. Why is there such a problem with anger today? It's because it's a lack of patience. Patience is required because at the end of the day, you have to wait when Hashem wants to give it to you. But when you don't have patience, you have anger. When you have anger, you lose your soul. So that's the ability. It's not like I'm super religious, I'm wearing this. No, you have anger. It says if a person had prophecy and he gets angry, he loses his prophecy. If a person has wisdom, he could be learning Torah all day long, he loses it, one shot. He loses it, one shot. Imagine spending 5-10 hours learning and you get angry, you lose it in one shot. Because it's the ultimate idol worshipping. You're trying to control God's blessing, which is not in your hands to control in the first place. So, what he's saying here is very simple. When you lack faith, you disrupt the vessels in Shemayim. And not only do you disrupt the vessels in Shemayim, but what happens? Hashem has to reconnect them for you. He has to reconnect them for the person. Okay, he reconnects them one time. Okay, reconnect. At the end of the day, it becomes a burden to Shemayim. This was what it says here in the Sifri, in the Sfas Emes on Behar. Saying that, so what are we doing when we lack trust in Hashem? We stop the flow of blessing. So the first person we have to look at, let's make sure we have our trust and bitachon right. Let's make sure we have our munah before we complain about money, before we complain about everything else. If we looked at the desert, all the complaints were, there's no food, there's no food, there's no meat, etc. So this is the story of faith for us. To the ability that we complain, and we actually are disrupting the levels of shefa to us. So really, the problem is in our heads, is in our belief system, is in our ability to have trust in God. So again, some people can't handle that because they says, I can't do something I don't see. If I don't see it, I don't believe it. So then you're going to ask me, okay, well, there's a lot of people that don't have a moon and they make money. So again, mazal is based not upon a person's merits. It's upon something that's given from Shemayim. A person can be Harvey Weinstein, tremendous mazal. But what happened? He misused it. So mazal, some people have much more better mazal than other people, but eventually the mazal actually runs out. So we have to realize, in order for you to enjoy the money and have fulfillment, because we know today there's plenty of rich people that are not fulfilled. It's not about money; it's about fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from having this level of trust in Hashem. Very, very, very important. So he's saying here, every time we worry, every time we disconnect something, we're actually disconnecting our pipelines. Very, very important to see. He also says here that this is a book called it's Mesilai Yesharim, in chapter 21. He says, God does not rest upon a person while he's in a state of distress. That means when you're getting your amygdala hijacked, he's not with you at all. He's not with you at all. He's saying here, not conducted to real contemplation. That means in order for a person to get the magical answer that he needs, should I take this job? Should I marry this person? Should I go on this date? Is this the right soulmate for me? It bases upon control of your mind and your emotions. This is the key to get the answer, because the answer is in your heart. But what happens if we have our emotions running? The answer will not be revealed to us, because God's the one that reveals to us. So when you do his bodedut is Ruach HaKodesh. That means if a person gets himself in a state of contemplation, why I speak so much about his bodedut is because his bodedut, Rav Nachman says, it's a concept of Ruach HaKodesh. I've had his bodedut where I don't even know how I started talking about this. The words come into your mouth. They come from heaven. It's a different source. But in order to do his bodedut, you have to be clean. You have to be detoxed. You have to be detoxed of any kind of schmutz. You can't do his bodedut with trash in your head. That's why we do. What are the first steps of his bodedut? Gratitude and emptying out my head. I want to empty it out, because in order for me to see God speaking through me, I must be in a state of contemplation. I've said this many times to people, that anytime I get stressed out, when I lose it, which is, thank God, not very rarely, I can't come up with a class. Can't come up with it. Even if I try, whatever I do, I try, nothing, it's not coming in. It's stuck until I am able to change that state. Same thing with us. If we don't have this contemplation, we don't get the signal that we need to proceed in whatever area that we need in our lives. It's so important, because your whole life is based upon this. So what do we need? We need trust in God, to realize I put an effort, the rest is blessed from Hashem. That means if it's not meant for me to make it, it's not going to happen. If it's meant for me to make it, it's going to happen. I can't control and focus something that I can't control. So, very important. He also says here, this is a beautiful book here, he's saying here that the Matanas Halko says, whoever trusts in something other than God, the Almighty leaves him. Bye-bye. Go to that person you're trusting. Who are you trusting in now? CNN, Bitcoin, the Dow Jones, wherever you want to put your trust in, Go ahead. So it's not like, oh, this person's going to get punished. No, he's going to be under that dominion. That means if it's Mother Nature for you to make 10%, you'll make it. If it's Mother Nature you're under the teva of nature. So you don't have direct supervision. Very, very important, because one thing is, imagine a kid running across the street. Maybe he'll get run over. But the difference is the father's holding his hand across the street. And he makes sure if something's coming, he pulls them. That's the difference between having trust. Somebody's holding your hand in life. Hashem's holding your hand. Otherwise, go ahead. Go across the street. If the car comes, you're going to get hit. If it doesn't come, you're not going to get hit. That's very scary in these times. Because all you hear today is the opposite. So he says here that he will be placed on the country or alarm system in his home in various cause and effect situations. These are grounds for claims against him, for he does not trust in God, just not the master of the world. His punishment is God leads him to nature. So if a person, to the degree that a person is not connected to Hashem, he's left to nature. Same thing why I speak so much about Shabbat, because Shabbat, why do they call Saturday the Black Sabbath? Saturday is the worst day of the year, of the week. It's the unluckiest day. That's why it's called Saturn. Saturn was even Christmas, Saturnalia. It's Saturn, Black Sabbath. People used to die on Saturday. They used to dress in black, and it would be called Black Sabbath. That's how you got the Black Sabbath. But what happens when we keep Shabbat, what do? Our mazal goes over the day. We're not affected by the luck of the day. But to the degree that we don't, then unfortunately we're involved in cause and effect. So this is why we don't want to be in cause and effect. Because cause and effect, look what's happening to the world. Look what's happening to the world. Therefore, what he's saying here, he's ruled over the system of nature and the many causes and effect that a person is led up to. This is not what you want. You don't want this. You don't want this. It's not that you should say, listen, I don't keep Shabbat. No, try. Start by saying, you know what? Tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to keep Friday night meal. And start little by little. We're in a generation of all or nothing, unfortunately. Either I do it all or nothing. It's not true. Who says all or nothing? Rabbi Rosenfeld, who is the scholar who brought Breslov to America, he was able to makarv the Syrian community. And you know how he told them to start? He told them, by the way, when you go to your stores on Saturday, just shut off the radio. Start shutting off the radio. Just don't listen to, go to work, enjoy work, but just shut off the radio. Next thing you know, they shut off the radio, and then he told them, okay, cut your hours from 9 to 5. Same thing with ourselves. We don't want to feel bad, but we want to say, you know what? Let me try it. What's the point? Because if my whole mazal is based upon me connecting to God, why don't I go all in? Why am I putting blinds up for no reason? Because my friend's doing it and he's not succeeding. Why am I putting blinds up? We need to pull the blinds back. The blinds are causing us not to really be living the life that we need to live. Lesson 76. So he talks about how do I actually create a vessel? I'm very big into vessels because I believe that anytime there's something lacking, it's due to my deficiency. See, this is where you win 100% of the time. If anytime something's wrong, I'm doing something off. Something I'm doing off. It's funny how Rachel Imenu was crying out to Yaakov Avinu, and he says, if I don't have children, I'm dead. So what did Yaakov Avinu say? He said to her, he says, listen, it's something you're doing because my other wives had children. And what did she realize? She was actually had spiritual jealousy of Leah. Once she changed that, she had a child right away. So anytime we're able to take 100% control and say, you know what, I need to be open-minded and see what am I doing wrong. When you approach God and say, Hashem, what can I do to become better? You get the answer. When you say, why is this happening to me? You don't get an answer. One's the difference between a humble question and one's the difference between an arrogant question. An arrogant question means, why is this happening to me? There's an injustice. We spoke of it many times. Injustice means no emunah. There's an injustice in the world. I don't have faith. Why is this happening to me? It's because something I need to do. So whenever we pray, we want to pray. What do I need to change? Did I maybe I put too much trust in somebody else? We know there's this famous pasuk in Tehillim. It says, cursed is a man who trusts in man And blessed is a person who trusts in God. That's the recipe. There's not that many recipes. I've put my trust in people and I've got burnt almost 100% of the time. When I put my trust in God, I've got blessed. When I put my trust in people, I got, every single time I lost. So I've learned expensive lessons, unfortunately. So what is he saying here? That whenever we look at something, every time we look at something, we're actually creating a reflected object and a direct object back. So looking is a way a person creates a vessel. He says, before a person can see an object, it lacks dimension and time. But by looking, this is what our sages says, he made you suffer and let you go hungry, and he fed you manna. Every single time we say the same, the pasuk, Eine kol lecha yisaveru, poteach es yadecha. Why do we say this all the time? It's because we have to first look. We look up. All my eyes look up to you with trust. You give bounty at the right time. So I don't look. I have to look up. When I look up, I give it dimension and time, and then that bounty comes to me at the specific time. This is the recipe. This is what we have to do. That means if a person is able to look, he says a vessel is created because constantly bounty chef is constantly really coming down to us. The problem is today we don't have the vessels. We don't have the appropriate vessels. There's no question there's a mate for a person there. There's no question there's a shidduch for a person, but that person lacks the specific vessel to receive that specific person. Same thing with anything in our lives. We want to say, Hashem, I need bigger vessels. Now, if you ask for bigger vessels, remember, you're going to get pointed out to show you what's causing the problem with the vessel. And that's not going to come usually through easiness. It's going to come through a challenge. So whenever you ask for help, they're going to show you your help, where you need the help. And the help is probably going to be something you need to improve. So anytime we say that, that's why when a person starts doing tshuva, he gets a lot of obstacles. Doesn't make sense. I'm doing tshuva. Why am I getting all these headaches? Because the headaches are the things that you need to work on. When your person looks in the mirror, it's not the things. The person says, just look in the mirror to see where you're succeeding. No, you got to look and see what you're not succeeding in. What are you not doing? It's not what you're doing. It's what are we not doing? So he says a vessel is created by constantly looking above. It says everybody's eyes look up to you with hope, and you give them sustenance at its time. That means money's coming down for everybody according to their pipeline, but it's based upon our vision and our ability to make vessels that the money will come to us at the specific moment of time that we need it. It's a trust issue. It's not a overworking issue. The reason why we're not receiving is because we are lacking the trust. If you want to talk about the law of attraction means trust is what attracts the money that I need at this time. That's the law of attraction. The Jewish law of attraction means if you think about $1 million, it will come to you. No, it might not come to you. We don't really believe in that concept. We believe in positive thoughts will bring you positive outcomes. But with money, it doesn't come based on that. It means if I need money right now, I need to do one thing. I need to work on my trust. So that's what he says here. Reb Natan says that this is why direct light and reflected light are so important. It's because a person has to visualize something in his mind and truly know that it's concentrated, is based upon his focusing. Bitachon is focusing on the object and relying. That means bitachon means I trust that God's going to take care of me. You could say that. I believe, I trust in God that's going to take care of me. Once you say I trust, you don't have negative thoughts, you don't have worry, you don't have panic, you don't have amygdala hijacking, you don't have all these things. It's not so complicated, but you need to work on yourself. Now, again, why is it so hard for people not to worry? Because they can't handle not controlling everything. See the problem? I have to worry. How could I not worry? What is it going to do for you? The problem is people can't let go of things. They can't let God into their lives and just let go. No matter what, they just can't let go. I have to worry. Because they think as long as they worry, nothing bad will happen to me. You understand? The system is off completely. We should be able to walk around calm, relaxed. Thank God I run 3-4 companies. Even when my wife got robbed, thank Hashem, it's meant for a reason. It could have stopped. If Hashem didn't want her to get robbed, it wouldn't have got robbed. End of story. When you walk around like that, your focus is on, instead of why me, what's next? What do I need to do next to resolve the issue? And you have focus. You don't have your emotions blocking your intellect, and you attack the next things. But when you're based on why me, why is this happening to me, how come this, how come that person doesn't happen to, all these questions that are going to lead you to 0 times 0 is 0. It's going to lead you to nothing but justification and calls and wasting time. What do you need to do next? What's next to do? What are we doing next? Champions make adjustments. People that are not champions make excuses. So if we're making excuses, it's leading you to 0. Absolutely nothing. Especially on justification. That obviously is knocking us out. So what does Rav Nachman tell us here? Therefore, you have to renew your intellect daily. That means if you renew your intellect daily, what's going to happen? Your mind is going to expand. Why do you think I do so many classes? Because we're renewing our mind. Yesterday's yesterday. Tomorrow, there's a new class. There's a new thought in the day. It's a new day. It's new energy. It's new thinking. When you approach life like that every day has a brand new energy, brand new opportunity, you see them in front of your eyes. When you say, well, I don't have energy for tomorrow. Why don't you have energy tomorrow? Because you're stuck on yesterday. So our ability to renew our mind gives you vision. The more you renew your mind, you don't get stuck. You renew your mind, you have vision. As it says, someone with a strong vision could see very far away. He doesn't have to get close to something. That means, what does that mean practically? That means when a person has a problem, he doesn't get frazzled over it. He says, oh, I know how to fix this. We'll just do this, this, this. And he resolves the problem. That's the difference between leaders and followers. Leader leads. He doesn't get stuck on things. So to our ability that we able to have vision, also Rav Nachman says here, the same applies to servicing God. One who has a clear mind, he can pray, study Torah, help other people. But what happens is one who doesn't have a clear mind, what happens? He's stuck. He can't give. You understand the problem? When we're stuck, we can't give. We can't give to anybody because we're dealing with our own problems. So our ability, this all comes from one thing. It all comes from ability to a person spending time himself. The Kabbalah teaches that the presence of judgments indicate a state of constricted consciousness. See, in the Kabbalah Center, I don't know what they're teaching people, but they're not teaching these things to people. They're teaching people very simply. We have to understand that our mind rules over our emotions. And the 7 Sfirot of Kabbalah is what are you doing? You're channeling energy and making sure there's no blockages in the pipeline. That's what Kabbalah is. But what are they doing? I don't know what they're doing. But the only way that you need to talk about this is talk about Emunah. Because without Emunah, without these, you can never even get a vessel to receive the light. People are saying, oh my God, look at this light. The light. But there's no, what light? There's no vessel. How could you have light with no vessel? So that's distorted Emunah. Distorted Kabbalah. Real Kabbalah begins first with Emunah. That means Malchut is the vessel. And then we're able to channel that energy into us. But if we don't have the faith or belief, we can't channel that energy into us. So Rav Nachman says that if a person stays in constricted consciousness, if his mind is blocked and he doesn't expand his mind, what's going to happen? Then the dinim are left unmitigated. What are the dinim? The dinim are judgment. The guy's not getting it. He's not learning the lesson. So what happens? It's got to come harder. It's got to come harder. And then they unfortunately becomes more severe. So the ability for us to invest, that means the people that are succeeding are the people that are investing in time in their intellect. Then they automatically go through the day completely different game plan. Then they're able to build trust. So I can't get bitachon at 7-Eleven. I can't get bitachon at 7-Eleven. I can only get bitachon on the amount of time I spend learning about God. Remember, we can never thank Hashem if we don't even know. You can never trust Hashem if you don't even know what Hashem's about. So may Hashem help us in the Schut of Rabbi Tanzal that we should build the proper vessels. Remember, it's not a lack of light, it's a problem with the vessel. Very important. All right, that's today's class.